Hello and welcome to another episode of Magicians Only. Are you a magician? Should you be listening to this? That's okay. All people are welcome. If you love magic, if you like to perform magic, if you're a professional, if you're an amateur, if you're a hobbyist, or you just have a little kind of, I don't know, maybe there's just like a little intrigue, a little interest in the subject, this is the place for you. We're going to be talking about magic, we're going to be talking about secrets, its history, theory, interviews, you name it. It's all going to be here. And it's also going to be a very honest discussion. This will be an uncensored and truthful show, warts and all. And of course, it begs the question, can you do sleight of hand with warts? And the answer is, with two in the hand and one in the pocket. That's a magician's joke, and I'm glad I'm doing it here so that I don't have to hear you groan. So welcome to Magicians Only. As always, it is sponsored by Magic on the Go from magiconthego.com, an online encyclopedia of visual magic in your pocket. Over 900 videos teaching you everything that you need to know to be a better magician. Everything from sleight of hand to self-working tricks to stand-up stage, street magic, you name it. And street magic is a good thing because this is actually part 2 of the Keith Fields interview. Now, for those who remember last week, and for those who bothered to come back this week, last week we took a page out of the podcast world where people go interviewing their guests in restaurants, and we decided to do it with, magicians, because I think it's actually a very lovely format. And so the very first person that I took out for lunch, and a magical lunch, was Keith Fields, and is Keith Fields. And we had such a great discussion, actually. It was over 2 hours. I've done a fair bit of editing to bring it into the salient points, although you probably think it still rambles. As we get into part 2, it gets really juicy. Keith starts talking about his life as one of the top Covent Garden street magicians, and let me tell you, he was excellent. I remember going to see him there. I was so jealous. I always wanted to be able to do it myself. I never had the courage, but he would go out there and he would just kind of rule the crowd. He was really at the top of his game. So listen, because Keith's going to give you some gold here. And if you want to know more about street magic, check out magiconthego.com. There's a whole masterclass on street magic with Tom Frank and David Groves, where I interview them at the Magic Castle in Hollywood. And it's a 5-part masterclass, and we go through everything from finding the pitch to the hat lines to the kind of openers and closers, and maybe kind of how to approach the merchandising aspects. That's all part of the talk with Tom Frank and David Grove. That's on Magic on the Go, as well as a masterclass on what I call the hat trick. This is the Dick Turpin, Percy Press street performer classic, where you used to be able to borrow a hat. I guess you could do it with one of the larger baseball hats, but what you used to be able to do was you borrowed a hat and you toss a coin on the table, and the spectator has to guess whether it's heads or tails. There's a bit of shenanigans, some fun, some gags, and at the end of it, you lift up the hat and there's a bloody turnip underneath the hat, or a glass of water, or beer or something along those lines. It's a great trick. And what actually happened was I came across, and I'll talk about it more in another episode how, but I came across video and footage of my old mentor, Dick Turpin, who, I think it was in his 70s when I was like 11, and he taught me the hat trick. It was something that he did wherever he went, and he killed with it. His misdirection was so strong, you'd never see him do the dirty. So I came across a bit of footage of him performing it and teaching it. That kind of sparked off my whole interest in getting this thing on film. I did more research, gathered more methods, and even created my own unique method called UHT, Ultimate Hat Trick, which I perform in my show, and I also explain on Magic on the Go, which is quite a coincidence because Magic on the Go sponsors this podcast. Anyway, let's move into part 2 at the restaurant with Keith Fields, and I will repeat the question that I asked him at the end of the last episode. How do you did you have a technique for pulling a crowd that worked for you?
I found there were interesting stages that you go through. Stopping the first handful of people is to have a handful of people that want to watch you. And that was the hardest bit. And sometimes it happens from just a conversation with people, because you've got people, they're not coming there to watch a show. Covent Garden was different because they're coming there to watch a show. Working the Miracle Mile in Chicago, people are on their way from A to D. They're not expecting to stop and watch a show, so it's a harder thing.
Right, okay.
So I'd always say, if I could get a kid watching me and stop the family, then I had maybe 6 or 7 people who were out for the day. You know, they were on holiday, they were sightseeing, that sort of thing, and then they were happy to stop for 10 minutes. As soon as I had that group, then all I wanted to do was get a second group to join them, and all of a sudden you're up to, say, 10, 12 people. And at that point, I break out the chop cut.
Okay.
And I start talking, but I don't rush straight into it.
But before the chop cut,
I'm doing Silken Thumb Tip, Professor's Nightmare.
You're doing like little bits and pieces.
Cut Restored Row, some balloon gags for the kid. I get the kid out and get him involved in a trick, because if that kid is involved in a trick and the parents and the family are really enjoying it,
they can't leave. Unless they want to dump him.
If they do leave, I'm in trouble because I've got an extra kid. Which would be a great load for the chop cut, but that's another story.
It's another story. It's a big chop cut.
Look at a small child. But it's getting that first group. Now, that can go really badly wrong when the kid goes back, because at that point, the parents are making a decision about, am I going to stay or am I going to go?
Yeah.
So at that point, ideally, I'm trying to get
One sec. Could I grab the dessert menu?
Thank you very
much.
much.
So much.
Another coffee, I'm going to be like this on the way.
I know, I'm pulling over every 20 minutes.
So it's at that point I try and get, before the kid goes back, I try and say, I'm going to do a trick with $20.
Yeah.
And I try and get the $20 out of the guy from the family who's just started there.
Yeah.
You always go for a 20, because a 50 you're unlikely to get, 100 you're unlikely to get.
Yes.
Creme brulee right now is a French vanilla, spiced French vanilla, sorry.
Right.
And then the Basque cheesecake is an orange curd.
That was my nickname in high school. I say that about everything.
It's a curd.
Oh, right.
I think you heard something else.
Can you imagine? It's an
So
orange.
let me just get back to this before I lose my chain of thought. So
Yes, I know, we're at that age
you
now.
need to get that $20 out of someone.
Yes,
$10 is a second, but $20 is the best.
Yeah.
So if I can get the $20 out of the dad who's there, I've almost guaranteed got a show, because now I'm going to vanish the $20 bill quite quickly and go into the chop cup routine.
Right.
And the chop cup routine, all the cups and balls,
Right.
they are natural crowd pullers on the street.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows that it's either a con game and someone's going to get conned, or it's a magic show. But it has.
Do you think it's because of that 3-shell kind of vibe?
I think so. I think it's part of the same vibe. They know people are watching. They know something interesting is happening, but they want to see what. And as soon as they see a cup in the ball, there's something about that which draws them in. And I always used to say that if I could get to that point of the show, the crowd size would almost double or treble before I'd really got into the chop cup routine.
Okay.
And then it was into the chop cup routine.
So it's lots of little tricks for the smaller crowd and bits of banter and business. And then
this is what I call my money routine.
right.
When you've got a crowd that you think you can get some money out of,
Yeah.
you grab a guy, get the $20 out of him,
What would you do with the $20?
vanish it
Right.
quite quickly.
And then not give it back for a while.
No, well, it would be coming back, and at the time I'd do all the old gags about, don't worry about your $10 bill, you'll get it back in a minute. Because now half the audience, they want to know if he's going to get his money back.
Sure.
They want to know if this is a
The
con.
justice warriors in the audience who are like, I'm going to
absolutely.
make sure that kid. Yeah.
Giving them reasons to stay.
Sure.
It's baiting hooks, that's what you're doing. So the chop cut's very powerful because of the history and the memories and the visuals, and it's very powerful because of the fruit loaves at the end. And I do it with my hat and produce a coconut and a pineapple.
Yeah.
And then I pick up a lemon. It just happens to be another lemon because it's not the ones on the table, because the ones I use on the table are plastic.
Right.
But I pick up a real lemon, which happens to have the bill in it, but to all intents and purposes, the audience will remember it coming from the cups.
Sure.
And then 2 minutes later, we cut that open and produce the lemon. So a very classic framework.
Right.
But it worked so well because I knew, as soon as I got the $20 out of the guy, that was what I call my money routine, which was chop, cup and bill in lemon. And that played out then at about 12 minutes.
Okay.
So that was what they were really paying for.
That was your core
that 12 minute
act. Yeah.
They weren't paying for the first bit.
Right.
Because so that was the core, and then you had the hat routines and the bottling routines, and you'd be giving the man a $20 bill back, which is covered in lemon juice, and he's not going to want to put it in his wallet or anything like that.
Right.
9 times out of 10, the $20 bill goes in the hat because you're doing the bottling speech at the same time as your bottling speech. It's an old English term, hat speech, hat talk, at the same time as you're giving him his money back. And so if that 20 goes in, he's set a standard.
Right.
He has set a standard. So if that 20 goes in,
People often like the kid to be experienced.
more.
They want the kid to be the one that drops it in. It's kind
That
of cute.
happens a lot as well. You know, and there's all the lines, and the kids come back and give you $5, put in the hat, and go back and ask your mum and dad for a 10. This kind of, so you set all the kids up.
Do you remember your hat speech? Everyone has. It's a very personal thing, isn't it?
No, it's been so long since I've actually had a set hat speech.
Percy Press would do it in the middle.
No, I don't remember one of the things I did.
Yeah.
One of the things I used to say was, ladies and gentlemen, if I met you in a bar and I showed you the amount of magic I showed you now, you'd probably want to buy me a drink. Unfortunately, we're not in a bar. But there's a coffee shop round the corner, so you can go and buy me a coffee. In fact, you don't have to buy me a coffee, just put the money in the hat. Yeah. By the way, I only drink expensive lattes.
with the whiskey in them. Yeah. There's
no, I used to do that just to try and
humanize
the experience. If they're not giving me money, they're just saying thank you because I showed them some magic.
I like that. I like that more than the speeches where you're like, this is what I do for a living and I don't get paid unless you pay me. It's kind of like, you want to buy me a drink? Yeah.
But I think some of the guilting lines are quite funny as well. When people start walking off, one of the lines that, again, a lot of these are just classic lines that have been around. Very few of them are original to me. But we'd say, I'm now going to do my final trick, which is to make half the audience disappear. And I'd take off my hat and hold it out in front of me. And now people feel guilty about walking off, but if someone does walk off, you point them out and go, I can see you walking off. How would you like it if the person you work for walked off with your wages in their pockets? So now you say that's the first person who walks off, so the other people that were thinking of walking off but haven't quite done it, now they feel guilty and can't quite walk off so easily. Actually, so there's all the little psychological ploys you use, and they're different depending on what happens.
Yeah.
How sometimes you get the hat speech and they just stay there. And you go, holy crap, they're all going to give me money, this is fantastic.
Yeah. Press would do...
The bottom line is, street shows, for me, are the sweetest money that I ever earned. And I'll tell you why. We start off with nothing. No audience, no space. All I do is I walk out there with me and my props. And I do what I still think is the best magic trick in the world. And that is making an empty hat turn into a hat full of real money. And that is still, to me, the best, most glorious experience in performing that I've ever had.
It's so...
Especially when it's a big hat with lots
autonomous.
of money.
Yes, but it's so autonomous. You're not reliant on any business. You're not reliant on you're not clocking in. You're just... It's on you.
But I think that's a curse and a blessing.
Yeah.
Because it's that reason alone that a lot of people stay on the street and never really get off the street. They're not... All of a sudden, they get to a point, they cross into what I refer to as the dark side of the street. Because no one is telling them what to do, because they're not beholden to anyone, they don't worry so much about how they look, how they're dressing, that kind of stuff.
I'm going to go with the sticky toffee pudding because I'm English and
I was going to say a little nostalgia.
A little nostalgia.
I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see the. But I know what I'm going to go for. Yes, I'm going to go for the cheesecake, please.
Cheesecake and sticky toffee?
Basque style.
Lovely, thank you.
With the coffee, thank you.
I always remember Percy Press talking about, he did his hat line. It was the, grandma's necklace, is the 2 ropes, but with the kid putting their jacket, you put the kid's jacket on it, and then you put the ropes and the rings and all, you tie it all and you wrap it around the kid and you put the jacket on him so he's completely wrapped around. And then right before you do the release is when he does the
hat
speech. And he would be like, there's the jacket, there's the ropes, there's the rings. He had a rhythm. You could tell when he's doing the talk. I've only ever done one street show, and that was last year. A buddy of mine was doing this Italian food festival in Toronto, and as a favor to there's this amazing place. It's not really a restaurant. It's an Italian food kitchen, but they make the pasta for everyone else in Toronto. It's called Famiglia Valentine. It's just got a Michelin nod.
Oh wow! Yeah,
it's incredible. And so the two young brothers that own it, they're very Italian. They kind of open when they want to open. You know, it's like. And during COVID, what kept them alive was they started serving the public from 12 to 2, 3 days a week, right? And now they still do that. The food is amazing. And so they were doing an Italian food festival. And so my mate Phil calls me up and he's like, do you want to do like 20 minutes? Well, I think there's going to be a stage and we'll gather everybody around. I'm like, sure. We get there and the band is all over the stage. You know, there's no stage. The sound isn't working.
It's always, would you just do 20 minutes? Those gigs are always the ones that are the worst when you get
just
there.
20 minutes. You know, just like you're going to it's 20 minutes out of my pocket.
Yeah.
And so I remember doing, and my show isn't really a street show either, but so the crowd was there. I didn't have to pull the crowd. But the mic wasn't working, the music wasn't working, and I did one show, and I was wiped by the end of it because and my voice was screwed because I'd been kind of like over projecting.
Yeah.
And
it's hard work. That's why I say it's a young man's game.
I was like, I didn't enjoy that.
No, there are places where the street performing is set up better than others, but generally speaking, it's all pretty rough. You know, at the end of the day, you're not surrounded by the best people, and
you've got gangs to deal with as well.
Yeah, you can have. You know, people know, and maybe not so much nowadays with the advent of all the cards and the QR codes and things. But back in my day, I'd finish a day on the street. I'd finish a day on the street in Covent Garden, and I'd be carrying home £200 in cash.
Right.
I'm talking in the 1980s.
Yeah.
You know, £200 a day.
So it's like 800 quid nowadays or something.
Like a lot more money. But it was. I raised my first mortgage in the UK
doing street shows.
What I put as my occupation was street entertainer. And the guy said to me, street entertainer, you mean you make a living doing this? And I had to literally bring in my bank accounts. And you know, and I had to be paying enough. I knew in advance I had to do this as part of the plan, but I was paying enough money into the bank every month.
Yes.
As a street entertainer to buy a house in London.
Yeah.
When I was 26-ish.
You can also say to the bank, hey, look, no one's going to lay me off, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know I'm going to be working.
Yeah. I don't think it would work nowadays. Money was a bit more easily available back then.
Oh no, it's
much tighter now.
Oh yeah.
It's all about credit ratings now, and back then you could talk your way into a mortgage by convincing someone to rubber stamp it, but that's all gone. That's all gone.
Yeah, I mean, just renting an apartment in Toronto when we moved to Toronto, we went to lease an apartment. I only found one person who was willing to take that risk, and that was because she knew who I was. Thank you so much.
Oh, look at this cheesecake. This is killing my diet, you realise.
This is delicious. This looks delicious. Thank you.
It's the same when we moved to America. I couldn't even get a cell phone because we had no credit rating. So I couldn't get a cell phone on a contract. It was only because my brother lived here and he signed it basically.
He co-signed it for you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Let me take it. I'm gonna stop the recording so that I can go to the bathroom.
You certainly don't want to hear that.
Because you don't want to hear that. Although you never know. Sometimes you have very interesting conversations in the loo.
Yes, hear the sound of a fireman's hose in the background. That's all you need.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you.
I know you so well.
See you in a minute. We're back.
Yeah. As far as everyone listening is concerned, if there is anyone listening, you know, that was just a mere second.
That was a mere second.
Yeah, I've been sitting there for 10 minutes waiting for you, wondering what else is going on back there.
Well, once you get
you know the rules. You know the rules about being 50.
What? Tell me.
Rules being 50. Number one, never pass a toilet.
Right.
Or a bathroom.
Right. Absolutely.
Rule number two, never trust a fart. Rule number three, never waste an erection. Right. Even when you're on your own.
Especially when you're on your own.
Especially when you're on your own.
These are all very accurate rules.
Absolutely.
When you go on a drive, always have a cup in the car.
Yeah. Because I'm in my late 50s now, my very late 50s. I'm 66.
Man, it's true everything they say. Oh my God, this toffee pudding.
It was almost worth waiting for dessert, really. I mean, the Cajun dusted Atlantic salmon on a baby spinach salad with grape tomato and red onion and a white balsamic vinaigrette.
It was very good.
It was good.
It was very good.
I just read that on the blackboard.
Oh yeah, I thought you'd memorised it. Of course, it's right above my head.
But this cheesecake is absolutely excellent.
Oh, hang on, I just realised my mic wasn't attached to me. So
That's
that first
all right.
part will be like a little distant, but it's only because I'm reattaching the mic.
Or you were just being a little distant.
I'm just a little. Well, I'm English, aren't we? Always a little distant. There's a great Instagram site called is it Very British Problems or something? And they have their
Yeah, I've seen bits of that.
yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
I'll let you go, which is just a it's just a way of saying
go away. I've finished with you now.
Yeah, you're doing me nutting or something along those lines.
Yeah.
No, this is delicious. So this is a sticky, best sticky pudding I ever had though.
That was my number 2 choice actually. The sticky
Was
pudding.
it toffee pudding? You want to try a little bit?
No, I'm good. I can't crash tastes and desserts. Otherwise, I think, no, I should have had the sticky toffee pudding.
No, you should have.
And I'll be upset. No, the cheesecake's brilliant. I want to keep this memory.
There's a restaurant in London in Covent Garden. Did you ever go there? It's called Rules. You know Rules?
No.
It's on a side street nearer the Strand. There's a little side street there, and Rules is the oldest restaurant, family-owned restaurant in London. I think it's been around for 250 or 300
wow.
years or something
Yeah.
like that. And it's a game restaurant. So they fly the game in from the north of England every day. So when you order meat, it could have buckshot. So they say, what's your tea? Prince Charles has a room upstairs.
Yeah.
And you walk in there, and it's kind of tradition for me when I go, like, if I'm in London long enough, I'll go to Rules. And they had their Bloody Marys are made of, there's beef stock in the
Real
Bloody
blood,
Mary.
yeah.
You know, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's really great.
I love that area of London so much. I mean, it was very much my apprenticeship in the world of magic and performance.
I mean,
Around
yeah,
Covent
it's the
Garden,
frying
which
pan,
was
isn't it? I mean,
fantastic.
you're right.
Oh yeah, and the people that came out of that time. I mean, Steve Rawlings, juggler, who's one of the best jugglers in the world. Paul Morocco is another guy that worked there, who works all over the world. Eddie Izzard.
Was he doing street?
He was. Oh yeah, I know Eddie quite well. You know.
Yeah.
Our paths cross at various odd times in odd places.
Soho, probably.
Yeah. Back in the day. No, we just who else was from those days? Have you come across Nick Nicholas? He's in Australia now.
Yeah, I know who he is. I've met him. But you know what's interesting about Nick Nicholas?
Go on.
He was doing the Edmonton Street Festival,
Yeah.
and Billy Kidd was in. She was in theatre school,
Yeah.
and she was walking past the festival with her friend, and they decided to stop and watch this street magician. And by the end of the show, she was crying because she knew that's what she wanted to do.
Oh wow, what a great story.
And it was
I wonder if Nick knows that.
I think he knows. Yeah. Nick was the inspiration.
I do hope so.
'Cause,
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His cups and balls are great.
Oh yeah, superb.
It's like Gazzo's, but he's got his own thing with the big tennis ball and
Yeah.
the kind of like, getting the audience to great interaction.
Yeah. No, he's a first-class street performer, and he's managed to make that change from street performer to festival performer, cruise ship performer,
Yeah.
and all the other things. Because that's what I was saying earlier. You can get too comfortable on the street.
Yes.
Because basically on the street, your money is in other people's pockets.
Right.
And all you have to do is move it.
It's motivation.
It's
Talk about motivation. It says in acting, what's your motivation?
Yeah, that's the psychology behind it. Is that's my money you've got in your pockets. How can I make it move from there to my pockets? That's the real
Amazing,
magic.
yeah.
But when you have that way of thinking, that you can always go out and earn $50 or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you've only got $50 in your pocket.
So that must give, if you're a really good street performer and or even if you're not a good street performer, but you're just a street performer, you have the ability to do that. That must give you a comfort, right?
Yeah, I think it does, but I don't know how easy it is now.
Oh, it's way harder. Yeah.
I'm going back, and I really don't know what the effect of the lack of cash in people's pockets has.
That's why they've got the
I'll tell you
QR
another
codes now.
silly story, the lack of cash in pockets. I just remembered the last time I did the street shows in Chicago. One guy walked off, and I did the line about him walking off with my money in his pocket. He came back 2 minutes later and he said, "Sorry about that, I just had to go to a cash machine to get some money." So he actually was I was
But also, talk about making you feel like
yeah,
shit.
absolutely. But he, and I'm absolutely sure genuinely that's what happened because he watched the show and he walked off at the end and came back to me specially. And I'll tell you, that money was sweeter than anything else
of course.
in the
When
house.
somebody makes the effort to go like, oh no, I really want this guy deserves. I need to.
But I wonder how many people have seen you and I perform in various situations, and that did actually make them want to go and do professional magic. I mean, I know from you know that big book I wrote called Magic Tricks. Do you remember
Yes,
that one?
yeah, the public
mid
one,
1990s public tricks. I know because I've spoken to a number of people. Andrei Sunichka.
Yeah, from Czechoslovakia.
It's such a hard name to say.
Andre C is what I call him.
It was. He said it was the second magic book he ever owned, and it was because I do a bit on deck stacking in there. It got him interested in the whole mechanics of deck stacking, which he is absolutely, as you know, a master at now.
Butterfly deck might not exist if you hadn't written that book.
Exactly, and the guy who fooled Penn and Teller 4 times might not have done that if it wasn't for my book. And I keep discovering more and more people who
nice, right?
started magic from that book. In fact, just recently, I was told that, oh crap, I'm having a dead spot here, and I can't remember the guy's name. He does Magic Reinvented Nightly in Vegas. America's Got Talent winner.
Oh, the younger guy.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I know what you mean. He's wonderful. Yeah.
Lovely guy, and his name has gone out of my head, and that's just really terrible.
And we're 50.
Yeah. He started magic because of my book. And you just go, all these crazy people have, famous people have, wouldn't be doing what they're doing today.
You never know who's in an audience, and you don't know who you're going to inspire.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I inspired someone not to do magic. That's also a win.
Who needs the competition?
The competition. But then they went on to, be a serial killer or something. I don't know. But no, it's I think the story that I've told before, which is the Jamie Allen story. I was doing the shows in Yugoslavia. In 87, 88, right before the war. And there was a little 8-year-old kid who was obsessed with magic, and he came and saw my show every day. And I remember his parents were lovely, and so I took him backstage and I don't remember taking him backstage until Jamie pointed it out. Anyway, watching that show kind of inspired this little kid to get into magic, and then he saw other magicians, and but it was definitely one of the early inspirations. And I was 18, so it wasn't great. I remember the show, but for a little kid,
you're any good. He might have gone, I can't do that.
Yeah, but he clearly watched the show and went, I can do better than that. And years later, Jamie sent me a message. He was like, you don't realise, but I was that 8-year-old kid and inspired me to do magic, and I'm going to be in Toronto. Can we meet up?
Yeah.
I'm doing this thing, It was amazing. Yeah. And he sat there, and we sat for about 20 minutes, and he talked about his memory of that event was way more vivid than mine.
Yeah.
And he remembered this giant blue trunk that I had that was stuffed with props. He remembered,
It was probably just a case, but he was only 8. He was quite small.
He was
so the
small
case
for
has
his
got
age.
bigger as he's grown.
Yes, exactly. It's not so big. But he remembered me doing like the rice suspension and the magnetic cards. He remembered the act.
Oh, you've been doing that stuff for that long.
Yeah, I know. I need new material. I only just went back to it. That was the second time when I did the show at your place for.
I've never seen that. I've read about it.
Yeah.
I've actually done it, but I've never seen anyone actually perform it before.
Yeah.
Never seen it.
Making it work is live is a tricky thing.
Yeah. Takes a bit of.
But I've got that on Magic on the Go. I'm probably the only guy who's got work on the rice suspension. But
I'm sure that is the case. definitely in the last 30 or 40 years.
And but Jamie, he sat there and we talked for a while. And he kind of almost became a kid as we were, I could see him kind of like reliving that memory. It was just the most beautiful thing, and I was very proud because he's had quite a career.
Yeah.
And then now I use his software program, which is so weird.
Is that going to be everything, boys?
I think so.
I
I think it was perfect in every way.
Yeah,
It
that was
absolutely delicious.
Compliments to the chef.
If you need anything I would have seen, boys, I do love my media.
I'm just going to cut in for a second and just let you guys know that at this point during the lunch, the waiter came over, started asking me about what I did for a living, even though he knew we were recording. He knew. I told him we were recording a podcast, and he decided to have a Q&A. Anyway, but I accidentally turned off the button. So for the next 10 minutes of conversation, which Keith and I were talking about, a lot of warm-up stuff, how to be a warm-up artist and some other bits and pieces, he and I will have to do a whole nother podcast and conversation on that topic. Anyway, let's get back to the lunch right at the point where I realized that I wasn't recording, and we started to record again. But you were saying, we were just talking about warm-ups.
Yeah.
And
guy walked out, so I crept on that one.
You crept on. So the actor has a freak out.
The actor had a freak out and screamed off, and I crept on, going shh to the audience, trying to sort of break the tension. And I just went, I said, television can be a very stressful occupation. When you're an actor in this situation, there is so much resting on you. There are times when, things pop, but don't worry, we'll get back to it in a few moments' time.
Yeah.
And when we get back to it, please, be warm and respectful, because this is we don't realise how stressful it is for these. So I, made it all sort of nice.
That's lovely.
And I just wanted the guy to come back on and not have the audience doing it.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to do. But you know what? I don't think anyone noticed that apart from me. That I actually really worked hard to gloss over that situation. The warm-up guy gets no thanks, no respect.
They're the most important person when it comes to audience reaction and getting the audience warmed up. But you're right. But that said, they may not seem to get respect, but I can tell you from when you have a good warm-up guy, the producers know it, and they do talk about it, because they feel. If the warm-up guy isn't any good, they're going to replace him.
Oh yeah, you are.
So the fact that you're coming back every week is their kind of nod.
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly.
But I guess it's that street experience really helped you.
Yeah.
In
that ability
situation.
to improvise on the street. If something happened, you'd use it to explore comedy.
I had once. I was doing I'm in the band, and they gave me a speech, and it had to be said really fast. And it was in Spanish. And because suddenly my character gets hit on the head, and suddenly he can speak Spanish, right?
Can you speak Spanish?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Yeah,
no,
good job for you.
So they write this speech for me. I have to learn it phonetically. Yeah. So I spend a day on it, because we're the same speech all week long, rehearsals. So I was all right. I've got time. So we go out and do it, and then they pull me over, and they're like, in front of the live audience, we film it, and they're like, Steve, can we have a word? And the producers, now you're used to getting rewrites. You get rewrites all the time, right? In sitcom, they're like, that joke didn't work. We're going to tweak it. You say this, you say that. And they go, we're going to have to rewrite. Apparently, we wrote the speech wrong in Spanish.
Oh dear.
And I'm like, now? You just found that out now?
Yeah.
I'm like, so here's the new version. We'll give you 5 minutes. Learn it, and I don't know what I'm saying.
No, it's just impossible to learn something. Learn a set of random noises in 5 minutes.
And what I learned is, the more upset you get, the more frustrated you get. It releases the fight or flight chemicals in your head.
Yeah.
And then you can't remember, because your body doesn't need to remember, because your body's talking about getting the fuck out of it, right? So it's. And I learned this over the years. I was like, if I got agitated, then my ability to remember lines would go out the window. Yeah. So when I see an actor getting frustrated, they can't remember the lines. I'm like, you're making it worse.
They're on a spiral now.
Yeah, it's a spiral, and it's hard to get out of that. And then,
are you generally quite good at remembering lines then?
I used to be, yeah. Now and I use a technique. I was doing an episode of Mum, some episodes of Mum. This is a classic example of what Hollywood is all about, right? Yeah. So I get a call. During COVID, I'd done a bunch of auditions and not booked anything. And then my agent calls me and goes, so there's a show called Mum with Alice and Janney. I was like, yeah. They're like, they want to talk to you about a part, a recurring character. And I was like, okay. Yeah, they want to have a conversation with you, tell you about it, and see if it's something you'd like to do. And I was like, oh, well, I'll make that decision. We're in the middle of the lockdown, and I'm like, well, let me think about it. Yeah. Of course I don't want to fucking do it, but I didn't say that. Yeah. So they call me and they're telling me about the character, and I'm like, well, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Because I was in Toronto, I'd have to fly into LA a week early, and it was during COVID, so they got to put me up, isolate me, quarantine me. Yeah. Then when we go do the episodes, we had to go through all the testing every single day. And then quarantine afterwards, and then when I got back to Toronto, I had a quarantine for a week. I mean, it was, for 2 or 3 weeks of work, it was about 2 months of life. And so I get out there, and I had the best time with Alison Janney. Like, she's just the most amazing actress, and when you're in a scene with her, you kind of forget you're in a scene, and it just, everything flows, and you kind of want to do it again. And when they say move on, you don't want to move on. You want to, can we do the scene one more time? So I would do that. I would be like, can I do it one more time? And she was lovely about it. She was like, if you want to rehearse lines, just, she's such a real actress. Yeah. And so I said to her when we're in a break between shots, and I said, can I ask you a question? She goes, what? I said, you were amazing on West Wing. I said, and I know that Aaron Sorkin, the writer, is a stickler about every comma, every dash, every line of dialogue. You can't change anything. She goes, yeah, he's like very hard on that. I said, so what was your technique? I said, you must have had a special technique. And she showed me how she did it. It was, you've got like a piece of dialogue that says to be or not to be, right? On the side of the page, you write the first letter of each word by hand. You go TBONTB, right? And then exclamation mark. You put all the punctuation in. Yeah. And then, so you rewrite all the dialogue on the side of the script with just the first letter of each word. And what's amazing is it short circuits the memory process. So as you're doing it, because you're looking at the dialogue you're analyzing it in a different way in order to put the first letter. If you then cover the dialogue and just look at the first letters that you've written to the right, it just pops into your head. You'll know what it is. Yeah. TB or NTB. And every now and again you might not remember one word, so you have a quick peek and then you do it again. And she's like, that's how she learned it. She used that technique. And that's been a godsend, especially in the later years, as your memory starts to go a little bit. That technique has been amazing. I used to just do it by rote, just repeat. Yeah. And on Crossing Jordan, I did I remember 2 or 3 episodes in, they gave me a speech, like all this technical jargon. I remember there was words like curare to tetrodotoxin, which I can say now. Yeah,
because you learned to say it.
Because I learned to say it. And I would be on my little treadmill at home, and I would be like running the lines. And I did this one speech so well, they were like, oh, Steve can handle this. We'll just give him all the speech.
We'll make this his character.
Yes. So
big, long speeches.
Yes. I'm having all these technical speeches. Yeah. There was one 2-page thing where I had to describe how I'd figured out how some sweater had been soaked into cocaine so that somebody could wear it coming across the border, and then there was this technique for getting the cocaine out of the sweater. Yeah. And it was the most, literally. So actually what happened was I worked really hard on the speech, and we were supposed to do it on a Friday, but I was like, I had it down by Wednesday. Yeah. And like Wednesday evening, the producers come up to me and they go, we've got a change in the schedule. Is there any way, are you ready to do that speech yet? So I was like, I thought we were doing it Friday. I haven't worked on it yet. Yeah. And I'm like, I said, give me 10 minutes. And I go back in the trailer. So when I come out and I do this big ass speech, and I get a round of applause at the end of it. And then Miguel Ferrer, who was amazing and was like, in many ways, like my mentor on the set, because he's been around a long time. Yeah. Anytime they gave him anything technical to say, he'd be like, I think Steve should say this. And I was a line whore. I was like,
you had to be in that
what I didn't realize was in television and film, you don't want to be the person saying the lines. You want to be the person reacting to the person saying the lines, because you'll watch someone doing a big speech, and I see it now in film, where the person's worked his ass off, or they've worked her ass off doing, and the camera's always cutting away to looking at people reacting to what that person's saying. Yeah. And they're getting more screen time than the person doing the speech. Yeah. So you kind of go,
interesting.
Miguel was a clever guy. Yeah. Yeah, he'd just always be like, I don't need to say this, I can just do a look. Yeah. And he'd be right. Yeah. But it's interesting learning for magic. Do you write scripts down?
No,
never. You've never written it down.
No,
how do you approach a script?
The only scripts that I've had to learn would be when I've done trade shows. Okay. And I've had a trade show script to learn. And I mean, I've done bits of acting where I've been interaction and things like that, but that's the only thing I've had to sort of learn by rote. And I'd record it, and I would I'd start off running it whenever I was in the car. I was on cassette in those days. Remember those things? Put the cassette on, and I would actually sort of say it out loud the second after I hear it. You know how you have they have the or teleprompting, or
Yes,
what they call it. I forgot what they call it in America.
Teleprompter.
Is it a teleprompter in America? What do they call it in England? Auto cue.
Auto cue in England.
Different company, but the same technology.
Yeah.
Teleprompter. There's also a thing called an audio prompter. Have you come across this?
No.
You basically wear one of those tiny earpieces in your ear, which picks up from a loop, and you wear the loop around your neck,
Okay.
so it's not visible. And then you have a recorder which feeds you the lines.
Okay.
And basically you record it into the audio prompter with all the emphasis and all the pauses that you would want to put in to a live speech. So you don't just talk it, you perform it into the teleprompter.
Right.
That's important. And then you have this thing in your pocket, you have a button you can press to stop it and start it. And you stop it and start it by chunks of text, and you just repeat what you hear.
Okay.
And it's amazing how if it's your voice with your emphasis, you just repeat it. Now you can do that live, but I used to use the same technique to learn it. I would run a cassette recording of it. I'd start off saying it slightly after what I was hearing, and after a period of time, I'd be saying it slightly before what I was hearing. It's just kind of
brilliant.
As it got more. And at that point, I would re-record it, but I would put longer gaps in so I could say the whole sentence before I heard it. So it was kind of like a do it in stages.
You know, Brando is famous for doing, in his later years, not bothering to learn lines. He would have an auto thing in his ear, and somebody would just feed him the lines.
Yeah.
And
as long as the lines are short.
As long as the lines are short, it works. There was so the auto cue is interesting because when I was doing A State of Panic and I was hosting a game show, I had the producers in my ear the whole time.
That's horrible, that is.
And they're having a conversation with you while you're talking to contestants. It's so hard.
Oh man, I've only done that once or twice. I had a warm-up job where the producer wanted to do that, and I could literally hear all the camera crew thing and everything else, and they wanted me to be listening to that.
Yeah.
And
you feel psycho. You feel like you're totally split.
I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I take my hat off to anyone who could. But
it's next to impossible. Every now and then they'll throw you a good line.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to need to wrap this up so that
you don't get a parking ticket.
We're probably too late for that now. But we've got to get back. Well, here we are, Keith. It was a lovely conversation. We could continue talking and getting into detail.
Yeah. And a wonderful lunch as well.
And a wonderful lunch. And also, Keith has a website.
www.keithfields.com.
Yeah, where he is selling some really great magic.
Actually, no, it's not that one. www.keithfieldsmagic.com.
Yes, that one, including that amazing illusion.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Perfectly wrapped.
Perfectly wrapped.
Thing with the saran wrap and the dolly.
Where you change places with the person who's saran wrapped on a dolly. This is, and we've been talking about this because you designed one for travel.
I designed one that, because this is a full-size dolly, which take a full-size person. Obviously, a small one wouldn't be any use to anybody. And the biggest problem with it is it's hard to travel with, but now the whole thing collapses down and fits in an ordinary size suitcase, so it can be...
Under 50 pounds, right?
Yeah, about 33 pounds the whole unit weighs.
It's amazing. That's one suitcase. It's an illusion.
That will close any illusion show. Perfect for cruise ships. Anyone that has to fly anywhere.
Yeah, you have to check it out. It's really good. I'm thinking of getting one.
It's on the website.
It's on the website, along with a bunch of other stuff.
I've just been sent a brilliant promo video. Mike Hammer does it in his show.
Yeah, in Vegas.
In Vegas, yeah. And he just sent me a great video of it, which I'm going to be putting on my website in the next couple of days.
He loves it, doesn't he? And Justin does it. I mean, there's so many people who do that now.
No,
it's a tremendous illusion. And then, there's a bunch of other stuff that Keith sells that are from his career as a magician, including the human xylophone. That's what you call it, right?
Yeah,
the human
right,
xylophone, which is a tremendous routine. So there's a lot of great stuff.
I've sold 2,500 of those.
That's a lot of tubes.
That's a lot of tubes. That's a lot of things. Yeah, I can't believe that. That thing is
2,500.
That thing has kept me in cornflakes. That's what that thing's done.
Kept you in cornflakes. That explains everything. Anyway, I want to thank you for coming. It's been a lovely lunch.
It's been fun.
and we're going to do it again. Maybe we'll do a part 2 on this because we realized there was a whole section that we were doing where I thought the camera was recording and it wasn't so...
Some of the best stuff, actually.
It was actually really good. It's my first one doing this, so give me a break. All right.
We might have to do the whole thing again, but then it's been so much fun. I look forward to doing it.
Yeah, but we've got to do it at a different restaurant. We're going to find a different restaurant every time we're here. Or, yeah, well, the waiter just wants us to come back here every time. That was an interesting thing. Anyway, we'll say bye-bye for now.
Cheerio.
All right, talk to you later, people. Bye. Well, that was amazing. I had the best time. What a great format to interview someone. You're so relaxed. You've got the food. You've got the ambiance. I love this. I think we're going to do more of these. Plus, I can write off the lunches, which is always an advantage. But yeah, we'll do more of these. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. One of many, I hope, with my mate Keith Fields. Really a true pro, someone that you really need to listen to when it comes to personality, when it comes to structuring the patter for a routine, how to present stand-up magic, how to present stand-up comedy magic. He's the man. So onward and upward. I'll see you on the inside. Don't forget, this week's episode was sponsored by Magic on the Go, the online encyclopedia of magic. Why buy yourself one trick this year? How about investing in your knowledge, investing in your magic, investing in your career? Know all there is to know with almost 1,000 tricks now, almost 1,000 videos actually, not even 1,000 tricks, because some videos have 3 or 4 tricks on them. So almost 1,000 videos that take you into the world of magic, that will inspire you and encourage you to find your own style, your own magical persona, and will make you a completely rounded magician. I mean, there's no two ways about it. If you study and do half the stuff that's on this site, you're going to improve your magic without a doubt. This is a place where all the top pros come. We have so many amazing testimonials. I'm super proud of the work that we've done at Magic on the Go since 2017. I mean, I've done 99.9% of the videos on this site, and it's all been a case of researching a topic, making notes, learning the best parts, learning the best routines, improving them, filming them, editing them, and getting them up on this portal. We don't do it for the money. There's not a lot of money in this kind of magic OTT service. We do it for the love of magic, because I like to immerse myself. I like to have an excuse to immerse myself in the magic, and you should too. If you want to be a fully rounded magician and have so much knowledge that you can handle anything that's thrown at you at any time, I highly recommend Magic on the Go. I wish there was one of me around when I was a kid who put something like this out. All right, see you on the inside.